Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Powercast. And we are back. It is 2021, July, as I speak. And we're here to cover another show in the Power universe, which keeps expanding. I am here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And I'm also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you doing, Dana?
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here finally after 20 years.
Yeah. Good to be back. So yeah, as you can see, we're all on video now. We're up in the production of the Powercast. You'll still be able to find us in, all the other places, iTunes, Spotify, direct on the website, and of course here on YouTube as well. And yeah, we have a new format for the show as well. So hopefully it will run a lot smoother. It'll be, a much better listen for you guys and everything. And hopefully it opens up some interesting dialogue on the show also. So the episode we will be recapping today is, episode one of Raising Kanan, and the episode is called Back in the Day. And yeah, this was the premiere episode. We all have some very interesting takes on this. There are a lot of noticeable differences with this show and Power itself, but of course it's all connected. So we're here to give our takes on Raising Canaan episode one. So the way this is going to work is, first of all, I'm going to go to each member of the cast here and just ask them for their takeaways of this episode in particular. Just let me know, three to four takeaways, or it could be more than that if you want to, of what you took out of the episode and what stood out to you and everything like that. And then, after we've all given our takeaways, I'll ask some, questions just to expand, and then, and that's it, pretty much. And there's no, we haven't seen any preview trailer just yet at the time of recording this. But if one does come out, we'll address that as well. On the next episode, we might have that. So yeah, that's the way it's gonna run. So let's get right into these takeaways. So, just to keep things flowing, I'm gonna go first this time. It's the first episode. I'm the host and everything. So my takeaways from episode one of Raising Canaan. So first of all, when so the opening, segment of the show, it sees, Kanan on the playground and everything at the basketball court, and he's in some sort of fight, right, with his peers. And he does fight at first, but then ends up getting whooped a little bit. And of course, jukebox is there and everything as well. But what happens is, and this is in 1985, by the way, which is a few years before, it's 5 years, well, 6 years before like the actual story takes place. And that's also the year I was born as well, so very significant. But yeah, so Kanan is very young at this time. So he runs away from the fight and goes all the way home. We see his mother for the first time. We see the person that his mother is dating at this time as well. And immediately it's clear who the type of person his mother is. Like, she's a very strong individual. And she actually, yep, there you go. There's the picture on the screen right now. So yeah, great character, by the way. I loved her in the show. Um, so yeah, Kanan, he tells his mother what happened at the playground and everything. She sees him, kind of shook up and sort of crying a little bit. And her response to this is to grab a sock and what did she put in it? Was it like batteries or something? And she put some batteries in the sock. She gave it to him, and she said, "Look, we're going back there right now to finish this." She takes him right back to the playground, and he finishes the fight. With the socks and the batteries, like he whoops those kids, like while she stands there and watches. And when I saw this as the opening scene, it really set the tone, and it kind of stood out to me a lot because this is actually what 50 Cent talks about in his own life story and his relationship with his own mother. You know, because I've read his autobiographies. There's two of them. And yeah, this is stuff that actually happened, you know, at that time, at that point in time in Southside Jamaica, Queens. So, you know, that was a great way to open the show because it set the tone, and it also showed that this, you know, Canaan's story is gonna have a lot of parallels with 50 Cent's life, it seems like, you know, because Jamaica, Queens, that is where he grew up. We know that there was some parallels between, you know, the adult Canaan and 50 Cent, you know, particularly, you know, when he was having issues with his son, his oldest son and everything, you know, just like real life. And people were saying he was sending subliminal messages with what happened in Power, you know. But yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot of parallels, you know, to 50 Cent and this show, especially given the time frame and everything. And I think he's able to pull from his own life experiences a lot. And although this is fiction, I think we're going to see a lot of reality. And the reason, and another reason I say that is because I noticed Raquel, who is his mother, you know, Rack, when she was talking to Uncle Lulu and stuff, they were using the 5%er language, which is, you know, a real thing in New York. Like it's, you know, the 5%, you know, it's like a real sort of, I don't know if you would call it a group, but it's like it's a code of ethics. You know, it's a way of life for many people, especially back then, who grew up in New York. And a lot of, you know, popular drug dealers from the time, drug kingpins, they used the 5%, you know, lingo that they were using. So even stuff like that felt very authentic because we've never seen that referenced in a TV show like that before. So I appreciated little details like that, that, you know, that made it feel very real. So that's my first takeaway. So, you know, because just to expand on that, just because of, you know, the similarities between Canaan and 50 Cent, you know, the person in real life, it makes me scared for what's going to happen to one of the best characters in the show, which is Raquel, you know, because we know what happens with 50 Cent's story, right? We know what happens with his life story. I'm not going to say anything, you know, if you catch that, then you catch it, you know. I don't want to break anyone's heart just yet, so I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to come out and say it just yet. But yeah, it makes me very scared for what might happen because she is such a great character in this show. So yeah. And then, you know, also, it seems like, you know, because we know that Jukebox is in this, and she played a huge role in some of the later seasons of Power, you know, and it seems like we're going to see her story in this expanded on. And I think we're going to see a much more human side of her because the Jukebox in the main Power series, she came across as a little too violent, a little too bloodthirsty. You know, she didn't have a lot of dimensions or layers to her in the Power show. But in this, it seems like, you know, we're really going to get more depth to who Jukebox really was and what made her, you know, become the person she is. And of course, that's the whole point of this show with Canaan. We're going to see that with Canaan too. But, you know, by extension, we're also going to see what happens with Jukebox. And that's what I like too, because, you know, they're two characters we're familiar with in the main series of Power. So it's going to be very interesting to watch both of them, you know, and how their lives play out. And, you know, I enjoyed seeing, you know, how, you know, because we know Jukebox in the main Power, she was, you know, she was into women, and we got to see, you know, some of the origins of that in this show. So I kind of like that, you know. I like how they did it. It was very subtle as well. And because we're looking at, you know, younger people, they can't really do what they did in the main Power show, you know. There still was some sex scenes in this episode, but we're only going to see that from the older people in the show, right? So I liked just the subtleness of that moment with Jukebox and, the young girl, just the subtle way that, they held hands and everything. I felt that was very, very well done. It wasn't too much in your face or anything like that. It just, it was just a moment. And I enjoyed that. Like, this show has very human moments, considering, that it's a very brutal urban sort of story and climate. It has a lot of human moments to it. So I appreciated that. And then my next takeaway, and this will probably be my last one, because I'm keen to hear what you two are gonna have. But I'm very surprised that they decided to have Canaan take a life this early into the show. And the reason I say that is because we know that Canaan is a killer. We know that he's gonna, he turns out to be a cold-blooded killer. Like, he doesn't care about anyone. Like, the price of life is cheap to him, when he grows up and everything. But to see him take a life in episode 1, it's like, because you want Canaan to be likable in this. You want him to have some sort of redeeming qualities, right? It seemed like that's what they were trying to do with this, like show a more human side, show what led him down the wrong path and everything. But to have him kill someone out the gate, it's like, wow, he's basically already Canaan, like, almost. It's like he's already killing now. Like, I thought they were gonna build up to that moment, but he's taken a life already. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It went against what I was expecting, but it's not a bad thing. I guess in a way it just says, like, this is who he's always been, and it only gets worse from here. And we see how the show ended, and we see how much of an influence his mom has over him, and the fact that she is the main driving force of why he did what he did. So this, doing it this way actually, makes the connection between him and his mom stronger, in a way, to know that she is the reason why he did this. Like, she drove him to want to do that at such a young age. So that is in a way, it's a great thing they did that, but I'm just shocked by it. That's all. But yeah, those are my main takeaways for episode 1 back in the day. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to you next, Rich. So what are your takeaways from this episode of Power?
Those were some excellent takeaways. I agree with a lot of points that you made. I think I have mainly about 3 main takeaways from the first episode. So first and foremost, I have to say this. Courtney Kemp and 50 Cent, they have done an exceptional job capturing the 90s as well as the characters themselves. Now, I know Dana interviewed Makai Curtis. The interview is currently on YouTube, and she brought up a very good point. The mannerisms that he uses as a character, and you think about how 50 Cent was portrayed as Canaan, and even how Jukebox was portrayed. You could tell that the actors and the actresses, they did their homework on the characters that they are portraying as younger versions. But so you really do feel as though it is believable that this is Canaan as a kid, and these are some of the things that he went through. So I think it goes without saying, they definitely deserve high praise for that. And the point I made about the 90s, like, I thought about the scene when they were in the arcade playing the video games and, having pizza. It actually was a pizza shop with the arcade, Street Fighter arcade cabinet in there. That made me think about when I was a kid and I would go to the pizza shop in Boston. And yeah, there would once again be an arcade cabinet in there as well. So certainly made me reminisce and go back to those times in my childhood. I find it interesting, Gary. You mentioned you was born in 1985. I was actually born in 1982. So I do recall a lot of the things they showed in the 90s. Yeah, I remember all of that as a kid and becoming a teenager and stuff like that. So I think they've done an excellent job so far in this episode, capturing the 90s, capturing what people wore, how they looked, the music that they played. All of that stuff is fantastic. So they definitely deserve some praise for that. And I know Dana's showing back when Canaan was when he got into his fight, even they captured that timeline perfectly as well. So yeah, I definitely wanted to say that I appreciate that first and foremost. That's definitely my first takeaway. The other takeaway I want to mention is that I know, Gary, you mentioned the dynamic between Canaan and his mom, Raquel. You made excellent points, and I would also add that that dynamic reminded me a lot of what we saw in the regular Power series between Tariq and Tasha. Because if you recall, towards the end, Tasha wanted Tariq to not go down the same path that his father went down. But Tariq was adamant that he found out he was good at doing this stuff, and that's the path that he wanted to stay on. And I felt that that was very intentional, that that dynamic is also explored in this, because for me, it gives me a deeper perspective as to why Tariq looked up to Canaan in the first place, because Canaan has very different similarities as a character in terms of stuff that he's gone through from what we have seen so far. So I'm glad they put that in there, because it adds more, because I know we had jokes before on Powercast, all the stuff about, hey, maybe Tariq is actually Canaan's son. No, of course that isn't the truth at all. But yeah, it makes you think about those things for sure. And I'm glad they put that dynamic in there to explain, for those that maybe haven't seen Power, or they may want to go back and watch Power, then they'll notice right away, yes, there are similarities with those relationships. So I appreciated that. And the final takeaway that I wanted to mention is I really like the family dynamic of the show. The fact that there are all these other characters we didn't really know much about, we didn't really know anything about, like, Rock's brothers, Lulu and Marvin. And, right now you can see that, their family dynamic, obviously they're doing their thing out there on the street, but now they have an issue with Unique, played by Joey Badass, which once again did an exceptional job as this character. I'm looking forward to seeing as things start to set off with this turf war that they have going on. But I just think the family dynamic is really strong. When you hear as Canaan does the narration, or 50 Cent, Canaan, etc., does the narration of the character, telling you all these hints about his family members, how they're strong. Marvin is always eating food. Every time you see him, he's always eating something, right? Just to basically give you a snapshot of what's going on with the family. And unfortunately, Gary, as you mentioned, yes, we know what happened with 50 Cent in his life. So it makes you fear for what may happen to his mother. But I want to take it a step further and say, because we now know that there is a turf war going on, and that Joey Badass, aka Unique, is going to try and do as much as he can to level the playing field and make sure that he has all the control, I would not be surprised if there comes a point in the time where he actually gets close to one of her brothers and tries to use that brother to his advantage. Because one thing that you and I know from when we saw Snowfall, we talked about Snowfall a couple months ago, and then now they have this whole thing going on with Jerome, and the fact that Jerome and Lou want to do their own thing. They're all in the same family with Franklin, but they want to do their own thing. And the question is, how is that going to impact the family dynamic? The fact that these characters are nowhere to be found in the regular Power series tells me that things are probably not going to end well for a lot of them. And of course, the stuff you mentioned about Jukebox, how that character is portrayed, there are definitely reasons as to why her and Canaan ended up the way that they are. And we're finally going to see the full picture as to what happened. But I definitely expect a lot of tragedy. I expect a lot of bad things to happen. Of course, there'll be some positives as well, and I do expect them to eventually take out Unique. But what happens between now and then, I'm very intrigued to see. But I will say, first episode was fantastic. I'd say if I was to ever do a show, this is exactly how you do an excellent intro show, because in that 1 hour of showtime, I learned so much about the characters that I sometimes it will take a whole season to watch a show, and just learning stuff about certain characters towards the end of the season. Loki, for example. Yeah, one episode, I learned everything that I needed to know about certain characters, and it made me intrigued to see what happens next. So I have to give them props, and I look forward to seeing what comes after this. That's my takeaways.
Oh yeah, yeah, and just to add on to that, like, because I think the first half of this show was kind of slow, but it was slow in a good way because we were learning about, the characters and what's been happening and stuff. But I think the way they took the time to build up, I think like we're in for a treat in the next, few episodes after, because now they've laid all the groundwork already. So I can't wait. But Dana, hit us with your takeaways of episode 1 back in the day.
Back in the day, well, basically, you guys touched upon the time period era, and I absolutely love what they did with the visuals, how they dressed everyone. It really felt like the 1980s environment. I was not born there, but I've seen movies, so yay, good job with that part. Another thing to stand out was Patina Miller, who played Raquel. The relationship, I know you guys are kind of comparing it to Tariq and the woman, I cannot remember her name for some reason, but you're comparing it to Tariq and Tasha. Wow, it's been so long since we saw the show. So Tariq and Tasha, but for me, I didn't view that at all. And this is no shade towards the previous Powers or to the actress Notori Naughton, who plays the person, sorry, Tasha. But to me, Raquel, she stands on her own. She's way elevated than Tasha, and even Mary J. Blige's character, whose name I cannot remember because it's been so long since we saw Power. But she is on a whole stratosphere. And when they was talking about in the opening where they was saying that she learned everything from the boyfriend, right there that you guys see, it really felt that I don't want to say trained because that's not right, but he taught her how to be a queen pen, not just a worker, but how to be in control of everything. And we saw that go down because later on we'll discuss about the mistake and the misunderstanding later on with the episode. But to me, it felt like this is a woman who is not doing this because this is a way to make money. But to me, you can view it as this is my career. I am in here for the legit power to run everything. So right there, that was just a true standout. I know you guys were saying that they introduced a lot of characters at first, and they did, but they really did lay the groundwork about this is family. And, we can easily, because we've seen Power and we've seen shows that are like Power and movies like Power, even when we look at The Godfather, we all know that that's going to implode and that relationship is not going to be what it is in that first episode. But I really love the scene where I think the pizza shop it was, where everyone was just gathered around together and like, yeah, that's Uncle Marvin and that's Lulu. And that's over there is who that is. And then you introduce with the cafeteria scene, and it introduces the characters. Usually for me, voiceover, I can't stand it because I like showing instead of telling. But to me, it just really worked. The narration just was like, let me introduce you to my world. These are my friends. This is my family. This is my overall support system. And also in relation to Tariq, and again, this is no shade to the previous Power, it showed how we were being told that Tariq is really smart, right? But this really showed how adamant Raquel was to get to get Canaan into a better life. It was shown that, hey, this is the high school that I went to. This is kind of the generational poverty that I went here, so now you have to go here, and it creates that generational kind of stuckness. And how she is trying to get her son, at the time it was Stuyvesant, which just opened. For those who don't know or not in New York City, that's a real school That's a school for people who are extremely smart and talented. And you have to take a test in order to get in. It's a gifted school. And it showed that, this is someone who is smart, but he purposely flunked something in order to stand by his mother. He purposely decided, not let me go down, the path of the corporate man or the corporate way that I know that you want me to be, but I'm going to stand by your side. And yes, they show that in relation to Tariq and Tasha, but to me, it seemed like their bond was just even stronger. Where we had, like, there wasn't a ghost to kind of whoop his behind and say, you're going this way. To me, it just kind of felt like, this is what I decide to do. And the mother, while, she is upset with the choices that's being made, in the same way, I kind of feel that she respected him for doing what he did. And that is the massive difference between this show and the previous Powers, where it's a mutual respect for each other. And, everybody always said, we said previously, why don't you just whip that boy? Whip Tariq. You need to beat him already. This seems like he's willing to learn. Tariq was like, no, I know everything. And this one, we'll go into later, he made a mistake, but he's still wanting to learn from the mistake in order to be better. So that was, to me, one of the main takeaways. And also, I really loved how there were certain quotes from the show where, like, it explained, like, how it ended. We all know what's going on, like that Black Widow situation. We know what happens to the end, but you have to pay attention to what happens in between, because the choices that I may make here actually goes back and impacts what happens in the future. So it's a really great parallel for both of the shows. And I was interviewing Sasha Penn, who is the creator and the showrunner, and he was explaining how he wanted those to it's a separate show on its own, where you don't have to watch the other Powers, but he wants you to understand where Kanan's mindset is and how it evolves and how it can change throughout this show, and how you get to the Canaan that's the adult now. We see that ruthless killer. And you mentioned before where you were surprised that you saw him kill someone right away. To me, that just shows the kind of path that he is willing to take. And he's willing to stand up and do that. With Tariq, he was like, oh my God, I killed someone. And him, like, reflecting upon it. Ugh. We kind of see that he doesn't have those emotions right away. We don't know if it's delayed or if it'll ever come. And that's what you can argue. Well, maybe he's a psychopath. But, that to me just makes the characters stand out, where it isn't a stereotype. Oh, he's the first kill. Why are you crying all over the place? No, I liked how they just did it right away. And I believe that this series is only around 10 episodes or so. So you got to get the ball rolling right away. We're not going to be here for like episode 25. So I really liked how they just kind of did everything right away. So that was basically everything the quick things that I wanted to say. And, there was a lot of symbolism as well that goes with this episode that we'll dive into later.
Awesome. Yeah, great takeaways from both of you. So yeah, we spoke a lot about, our thoughts on the show. But there are some additional questions for us to address, and this might be where the show gets a bit juicy. So, so let's see what happens. So the burning question I have, like the biggest one that comes to mind, is: do you see any betrayals coming in, this season of Raising Kanan? And if so, who do you see betraying, Canaan or his mother? So we'll go with you first, Rich. What do you think?
Well, in the very first episode, we got introduced to Kanan's friend, Famous. Mm-hmm. And, I definitely think that we're going to see some issues with Famous, because his sister, when they went to that diner, Lulu already was trying to holler at her. And you saw in this episode, he told him, I don't want you, listen, I don't want your uncle messing around with my sister. So I somehow believe that something's going to happen to that sister, and something might end up happening to Famous as well. But that dynamic is going to be a little fractured because, you know, Lulu is involved. And now that because of the mistake that Canaan has made, pretty much I think everybody, obviously Canaan, they, Unique said at the end of this episode, they were still going to keep coming after Canaan no matter what. Even though they tried to work out something where you don't come after him, it's all out war now. So I kind of feel like the whole family is now, they need to watch their backs. So if Famous's sister happens to be with Lulu, somewhere, and it just so happens that some of these guys show up and start shooting and she gets killed, that creates a problem. So we definitely have a clue that that's going to be an issue moving forward. The other last point that I will make is that I think Dana, she did an excellent job explaining the importance of Raquel as a character. And I think that she is in control. I kind of get the sense that, I don't know if it's going to be with Lulu or Marvin. One of them might start to question, her being in control, and they may think she may be starting to lose control. And I can see that. That's why I mentioned earlier that I can see something happening where one of them does turn on her. Maybe they don't necessarily turn on her in a certain way, but they maybe work out a deal with Unique to do something. I mean, I could see that happening, and I wouldn't be surprised about that because, again, Canaan as a character, we know how he was on Power. And every time I think about when you look into how far he would go to do something, we have to acknowledge he killed his own son, Sean. And I'm pretty sure at some point in this show, whether it's season 2 or further down the line, if it keeps getting renewed, we're going to see when he actually does have Sean as his son and how that relationship also becomes fractured. But what I think is that because he was willing to do that to his own son, I can only think, well, he does this, but what did he experience before that? That's why I believe that a family member definitely can turn on another family member. But again, it's how it all comes together. So we'll see. But I will definitely say, if that doesn't happen, the stuff with Famous is definitely going to get out of hand, and his sister and Lulu. So I expect that to happen. It's just a matter of when is it going to happen. But you saw it started in this episode, so we'll see what happens from here.
Right. Yeah. For me, I agree with, like, I do think one of the uncles might end up, whether intentionally or unintentionally, they might end up betraying Rack and Canaan, and a way that this could happen is maybe cooperating with one of the other, drug kingpins or something, it could even be, Unique or something. So I think that is a huge possibility for sure. And another person who I'm a bit skeptical of is, I forgot the name of the character, but Canaan has a friend, that seems to be willing to do anything with him. It's the same guy he was with when he took out Buck.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of that character?
I'll pull up that name, but continue.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking, I don't know why, but it's just, I think it's just the way they introduced him, like the way 50 introduced him. He was like, yeah, this is my dude. He's down for anything. And the thing is, the difference between that guy and Famous, like the way he introduced Famous, it felt like Famous is going to be, he's going to be like the cool guy who kind of balances out, the characters and everything. I think he's going to end up being, a strong support system for Canaan, even if there is some friction with the sister and everything. And, that other dude, it just feels like there's not much to him. So I feel like he might be there to be like, to betray Canaan later on or something. So
his name is D-Wiz.
D-Wiz, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm thinking D-Wiz might betray him, might backstab Canaan later or something. So, and just to, add on to the point about, the uncles feeling like Rack might not be making the best decisions and stuff. We see that, Raquel is, she was dating that guy from the club or whatever, right? She went on a date, they were talking, they had a vibe going. So I feel like maybe that's something that might take her head out of the game a little, and that might, you know, question her judgments later on or something. And then that might cause the uncles to think that, you know, she's not fit to run the organization, and that might lead to one of them betraying her, you know. So there's a lot of possibilities like that. But how about you, Dana? Do you see any characters betraying, you know, Canaan or his mother?
In terms of betraying, you know, I do see someone from the crew. Someone when he was going and explaining who was part of the crew. For some reason I don't seem to trust Sean. I can't pinpoint it, but I don't trust Sean. And then because we kind of already knows what happens with Jukebox, the hardening of Jukebox, and we know that she ends up working for the police department, but it's like an inside thing. I kind of feel that, you know, we're kind of exploring her relationship with that white girl whose name I can't remember. I'm sorry, but we're exploring that relationship. I don't think that it's going to end well, and I do feel it's gonna harden her, and she's going to start making choices that may seem more cold-blooded, and especially because she's very close with what's going on in the whole gang thing. She's on the inside, but I do feel that she's going to start making more hardcore choices, and maybe for a minute go out on her own and do something. Maybe not right it now in the first 5 episodes, but I think we'll eventually get there.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't trust anyone's uncle. I don't trust no uncles. And I don't trust, here's the thing. When it comes to the uncle, I don't trust Lulu because I don't trust right-hand mans. You know too much information. So you're going to actually do something that's a side deal. You're going to try to cross something. I don't trust the right-hand man. No.
And if I could add one more point to that, anyone that knows Lulu and knows that actor, there's another show that he was on where he was considered an associate and turned on his boy. So yeah, that's not a good look for him if this is the same path that this character is going down.
And I know that you said previously that, you know, a man is going to end up distracting Raquel. I hope that she is just not that kind of woman. She doesn't seem like she's the kind of person who's going to be distracted by a man. Because if you looked at her previous relationship with the guy who died a week later, remember they was explaining, I really liked him, and then he died. I feel that it hardened her towards not being that, I want to say stupid because you can't say that anymore, but smarter than that. To not like, it's the man in the tension. No.
Or maybe she'll just be more calculating, because I do think, you know, everybody wants some company sometimes, but maybe she's strong enough not to let it, you know, affect her decision making.
Because then we're getting into Tasha territory. We know how that little dum-dum. No.
Can I ask a quick question? The guy, the one you're talking to, the former guy, his name is High Post.
Okay.
Do y'all think that we'll get a flashback to show what happened to him?
I don't want to know what happened to him. I want to know how he was teaching her and their relationship with that.
Yeah,
I would like to see what happened to him, because that could be relevant, you know.
Yeah, because I wondered that, because I was wondering, when they started the show and you show like 1985, then it jumps ahead in time to 1991. I will be curious to know what happened to this character, especially as Dana said, he probably was there. He played a role in teaching Rock a lot of things, getting her prepared with the mindset, so on and so forth. So I will be curious to see what happened to this guy. But we'll see, because again, this is a show about Canaan, so they may not go back to that, but we'll see.
Well, in 91, didn't they not say like a quick thing, like they either retaliated?
They said that he got killed.
Yeah.
Remember, Canaan said in the when he was talking about, he said when he was talking about the character, he said, he'll be dead a year later.
Right.
So and we do know that Unique also was talking about him as well when he had the conversation with Fraught, the fact that he's not around anymore and all this other stuff. So I would be curious to know that. And then also there was comments made about Kanan's father and how he used to run things as well. But yet, I like I said, I don't know if we'll find out about that character. It's not necessarily important because now it's about Canaan and what happens at this period of time, as he already said. But I just was curious when they spoke about that stuff, if that's something they may revisit, even ever so slightly for just a little bit.
Yeah. And one thing I would like to see, and this is just me imagining stuff, but like, because 50 Cent never knew who his father was, right? And we're talking about how there's a lot of parallels here. And there's a show that me and Rich often talk about called The Wire. It's one of our favorite shows. And one thing I really love about that show is there's two characters who are connected, and it never happens on screen. You have to pay attention to realize. So the two characters I'm talking about are Randy Wagstaff and Cheese. So there's a scene where you see Randy's name on like a document, like a social security document or something like that, right? An official document. And you see like his full name, right? And it's the same name as Cheese's real name. So it's like Cheese, it could be his dad, right? So I like little things like that because they never actually mention it, but you just see that detail, if you're paying attention. So I would like them to do that in this, as far as, the mystery behind who Kanan's dad is. Like, I would like for it to be like a subtle kind of reference or something that we have to catch. Like that would be, a great way to handle that. But, I don't think we necessarily need to see his father because, the point of this is, his bond is so strong for his mother because she's done everything for him. She's been, she's given him, discipline like a father would. She's taught him life lessons like a father would, and then she's also nurtured him and cared for him like a mother would also. So that's the whole point of this show, I think. So we don't necessarily need to see the father, and also it's a testament to how broken a lot of families are, especially around that time. That was the crack era, so there were actually a lot of children being raised without their parents or with one parent, be it the father or the mother. So it's a testament to what things were really like. So yeah. So my next question, actually, we kind of touched on this. Dana, she doesn't trust him, she said. But I wanted to ask you guys what you make of Famous and Sean and what his role will be. You can also discuss his sister as well. So yeah, Dana, we'll start with you. You said you don't trust him, but is there any particular role you kind of see him or his sister playing later on in this series?
I think that they would take more of an important role, especially we know that there's going to be some kind of gang turf going on. We know that it was perpetuated accidentally by Canaan. So I do feel that they're going to have to end up taking the lead more, and because of that, I don't know how well the communication is going to be with Raquel. And so there may end up being some side things that end up happening because of that. But I do see them taking that authoritative, well, if she can do it, I can do it also kind of way.
Okay. And how about you, Rich?
You're talking about Famous, the rapper? Or you're talking about Lulu?
I'm talking about Sean, the Puerto Rican friend. His nickname is Famous, right?
Yeah, this is the nickname. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I hadn't made notes. His sister's name is Jessica.
Right.
I really think it all hinges on what happens with Jessica and Lulu at this point. And not necessarily, it could be something whereas, because they are in this whole turf war thing, it could be something whereas, Lulu spends some time with Jessica, they go their separate ways, and then one of those gang members threatens, sees her and threatens her. And once, of course, Famous finds out about this, then he may be persuaded to have to try and do something to protect his sister, because it's obvious that he does not want her messing around with Lulu. And even I believe it was Jukebox made the joke about she was she's going to do what she want to do. She probably said she wasn't built for this life, but she's going to do whatever she wants to do. So I kind of feel like that he's very protective of his sister, and that right there is going to be an issue that I think this is the reason why they showed you this early on, that this is going to possibly become an issue, because he does not want Lulu messing around with her at all. And you have to recall, in this episode, after they left the diner, and there was that shoot that the gun shooting in the air, and the fact that he protected her, he made sure to shield her from any of that. And then you see the line she had after, "Oh, no one's ever done that for me." So this tells you this is going to get deep between those two, and Famous will not like that, and it's not going to end well. It's just a matter of what is the path they're going to take to actually tell that storyline, because it can be something where he just turns on them and starts to work with Unique and his crew. But we'll have to see how it actually unfolds. But something's definitely coming. We know that much for sure.
Yeah, great points raised, and yeah, like it could. I think Sean could turn. His character could turn so easily. Just by the whole sister thing. Like, because let's say Uncle Lulu and the sister go out on a date or something, and then at the same time Unique's people try to get revenge for what happened with Buck or something, right? And they start shooting, and Sean's sister ends up getting hit. That depending what her fate will be at that point, that could make Sean want to get revenge, for what happened. And then, his character will turn, like he'll become, an ultra violent. He'll be pulled into the lifestyle along with them, at that point, because he'll want revenge for what happened. So yeah, like that's a character I want to watch closely to see what kind of path they take. We know that he's an inspiring rapper, but he's not very good according to Canaan. So, but yeah, it's an interesting character. I want to see what kind of role Sean is going to play in this. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, some good takes from both of you. So the last question I had, and then you guys could you guys can bring up some stuff if you want to. Last question I had is, in light of what happened, so we know that Canaan killed Buck. And we know that Unique's crew isn't too happy about that. They shot outside of, Canaan's home. Luckily, Canaan wasn't hit. And, his mother bravely went to go and see, Unique about this situation. And he said that, I can't be responsible for anyone wanting to get back at, Canaan for what happened, But he's going to do his best, I guess, because they have an arrangement. But he can't be, fully responsible. So that suggests that somebody is going to try and get revenge for Buck, right? So I want to ask you guys, we saw at the end of the episode, Rack was, essentially, teaching Canaan a lesson, when they were shooting the guns and everything at the beach. She was telling him, every time you use that gun, a bullet comes out that it has your name on it, it's attached to you, and the consequences are yours for that bullet, So she was trying to teach him that lesson, right? So that suggests that, she's trying to harden him, and she wants him to feel comfortable using the weapon, because he might have to protect himself because people are going to come, right? But there's something she can do to kind of help the situation, and that is to move Canaan away from everything. So I want to ask you guys, do you see Rack potentially moving Canaan away from what's going on, or trying to at least, because we know that even if she moves him away, he might find his way back, or he might come back somehow, right? But do you think that is going to be, something she considers, because that's the most logical thing to think of, right? Let's just get him away from here so nothing can happen to him. But do you think she is going to make that decision? We know that Canaan referenced having grandparents or a grandmother somewhere. So what do you guys think? Like, do you think she will try to, send them away? What do you think, Rich?
I think this episode was her attempt to try and send him away, but then coming to the realization that he's going to do what he wants to do. So if he's going to do what he wants to do, I might as well guide him down that path. So I don't know if she's going to, go back on that in future episodes. But I kind of feel like it really depends how bad things get. Because if the situation escalates and, you see certain family members getting killed, then I can see trying to get him away from that. But I kind of feel like either way, this is what he decided he wants to do. So he's going to always find his way back. But I do think in this first episode that was the attempt to send him away. But she just decided after talking with him, thinking it over, and then, of course, having her brothers also say the same thing, she just decided, no, he's going to do what he wants to do, so he might as well stay here. But we'll see if that changes as the episodes continue.
Right. Yeah. And what about you, Dana? What do you think about that?
No one remembers this very important detail, and it was amazing. And I watched it, and I was like, oh, yes. This, again, is what separates Tariq from Canaan. When the whole episode, the end part, where she's teaching him how to shoot, right? It says here that there was the whole thing about the symbolism where it says that you're going to be running from a bullet forever. And she's teaching him how to shoot. There's a moment in the camera, he smiles with glee. And his mom catches that. And she's like, oh, shoot. Like, even she's like, oh, what did I raise? So that right there is the difference between Tariq and Canaan. Tariq is all talk, Canaan is action. Even then, it goes back to when he did his first kill. There's that glee. Remember when we saw that there was that scene where it says, get the strap, which I love how they incorporated that, because 50 Cent, all he says is get the strap. So I'm like, yes. But that scene where that moment where he looks in and his eyes is all like, yes, it's all glassy. And in that little squint, there's no place, that right there was the test. And, he could have easily said no. But the fact that he didn't say anything but smiled, he's ready. There's no reason to send him anywhere. He's ready to stake his claim. And I think that it also says that, that remember there was a part where they kept saying, well, there's people that's coming from you and you have to make choices, and they were fighting over the corners. And he says, I'm not blinking. My eyes are wide open. So, yeah, screw grandma and grandpa.
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right about that. You made some great points. That is true. He is a born killer, essentially. But at the same time, that will not stop, let's say 10 groups of gang members coming together and chasing him down the block and catching him and putting 22 holes in him. Like it won't stop that happening.
Whoa.
So,
it's true. He just has to learn how to work on that aim, because we saw in Power was a little off when they had those shootings. Shootouts between him, Ghost, and Tommy, the Super Friends. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. It's going to be real. Like, I can't wait for episode 2, because after that, I gotta see what happens next, because it seems like the only thing that can happen next is all out war. At this point, so yeah, I can't wait to see what path they take. But this is where I'm gonna go ahead.
No, I can say I can tease that because I have seen it with my eyeballs.
Well, don't do that yet, because
okay.
we don't let the listeners, they might get upset. But this is where I'm gonna open up and let you guys, if there's anything else you wanted to mention specifically about the episode and everything, let it be known. So, Richard, do you have anything?
Uh, I don't have too much to add. I will say again, it was a excellent, excellent first episode. Made me very eager to see what's going to happen next. Um, the buck 20 thing is going to have a lot of ramifications for Canaan. I feel like, yes, he mentioned that was the first person he killed, but we also know that buck 20 was the boyfriend of the girl that he has had a crush on since he was in elementary school. So I'm curious to see how that dynamic, evolves now, because he can go after her. He made it clear when they had that little scene where he was looking at her. Oh, I'm never going to stop going after her. So I'm curious to see what happens with that relationship as well. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of questions, and of course, once again, the family dynamic, the fact that we got an introduction to all of the family, and we have a good understanding of where their mindset is at right now. So I'm curious to see how this turf war changes that moving forward. Uh, but yeah, I thought it was an excellent premiere episode. They did a fantastic job, and I can't wait to see what happens next week.
Indeed. And how about you, Dana? Anything specifically you wanted to bring up?
Can we talk about my favorite episode? And hope I got this one right. With the dog.
Oh yeah, the dog, the microwave.
This
Oh.
scene with this woman and this annoying little dog, they just both look annoying. Rest in peace, doggy. But that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. And it kind of shows how observant Raquel is. I think that was the scene that was the part where they were supposed to get either, I think, a corner or drug.
Club.
It was a club. What's with the club? I think the continuing theme.
That's what I was going to. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was curious if y'all picked up on that, the fact that they wanted to sell the product in the club. I was like, hold on a second, that sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar. That's
It looks like the exact same club. Like, is that true?
It was basically that whole thing with the dog was hilarious, and also with this actress. I have been watching her for a while now, and I didn't. If you tell me that she was in Power, I would have thought, no, she doesn't fit in. It just doesn't make any sense. But she just kind of fit in as being like that girl, and it was just hilarious how everything went down with the dog. And again, that kind of shows. I don't want to say the cold bloodedness, but there's the hilarity of the whole situation and how annoying that she can be, where she thinks that she has the upper hand right there with her quick little comebacks, but then no, the dog is now in the oven. And yeah, so rest in peace to the dog, but that was masterfully done. Annalyn McCoy is her name, so hilarious.
Yeah, I did like how they added that, because one thing I've liked about Power is how it kind of fuses like the gritty, gangster lifestyle with like the glamorous city New York life and everything. So it really does clash, the cultures in that way, like, the upper scale, New York lifestyle with, the underbelly of New York with the gritty gangsters and everything. So I like how the show kind of fuses those worlds together. And characters like that is what really, seals the deal on that. So
and another thing no one mentioned was our good buddy, Mr. Epsom Omar.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
He was back. He came back. He's the cop teaching his white rookie, the girl. She's learning everything, so we kind of already know she'll be more observant to it. We kind of see that he has a tie-in with Raquel. I'm tired of you coming to the house. Oh yeah.
Oh no, I have a comment to make after you make your point.
Right. So that was also after they did the shoot up where they was trying to kill Canaan. I love how he just kind of came in and made his appearance. And so for me, we kind of know that his name is Malcolm Howard on the show. And that he's close to the mom. He has ties to her. But we kind of know that'll end up probably being his, I don't know what you call sidekick cops, co-cop. She'll be the one that's going to do some heavy investigating. So she is basically maybe an Angela Vasquez in this situation.
Valdez.
Valdez. It's been so long. I'm sorry. But yeah, she'll be one of those kind of things, or maybe she'll be end up being well, someone who breaks the case, and you'll have that strained relationship between her and Malcolm.
Mm. I'm also wondering if like jukebox. Oh, actually, you go ahead first, Rich, because
Oh no, I'm curious to hear what you guys say. I'll keep this brief. I'm glad that you mentioned that, Dana, because I like Omar Epps as an actor. I know he only showed up at the end of this episode, but I do want to add this point. I like the points that you mentioned. I kind of get the feeling though, this guy could be a corrupt cop though. Because
Really?
when I saw him and when I
Yeah.
saw the partner, I instantly thought Training Day, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But
And that's why I say, we'll watch out for that character very closely, because it's kind of like he has his ear to the ground a little bit too close, and I kind of would not be surprised if he's involved in this as well. So we'll see how that evolves. But yeah, I think it would be great to see him, because I don't recall Omar Epps playing a villain or a bad guy in any of his older movies, unless I have to go back and watch. So we'll see if that's what his intentions are. But I kind of feel like he's not just a squeaky clean cop. He does some dirty stuff as well. So we'll see what exactly that means as the show progresses.
yeah, and what I was gonna say kind of bounces off that because I do think he is a crooked cop, and I was wondering if this guy might end up influencing Jukebox because that happens to her too. So I'm wondering if there's going to be some sort of connection there at all. And also, Omar Epps, he was in Too Deep, right, with LL Cool J.
Yep.
So this would be like the reverse thing because in that movie he was, an undercover cop trying to bust the kingpin, right? And in this, he's going to be a dirty cop. So he's actually a cop, but he's dirty. So it would be interesting to see him play that dynamic in this. So, but yeah, if that's everything, then
One more thing. Sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
I just really have to applaud the acting and the writing. They got actors who can act. We don't have to learn and grow with them. They're already there. It's on the page. They're putting out the words, the writers. Yes, we know what we're doing. So I like the elevation that the Power Universe is doing. I like how they're evolving. And I like how we got something where we didn't have to play like, that was kind of funny and it wasn't meant to be. But I really like the level. Yes.
And I also want to add, to piggyback off of what you said, I love the new Power Universe logo. Because I wasn't expecting to see that. I was like, well, hold on. This is how the show starts? And by the way, the 50 Cent song, thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Yes. It was refreshing. Yes. Because we've been in
I really like the original song, the Kenny Burke, "Rising to the Top." It's like a remix of that. So yeah, I love the intro.
I'm just happy we got out of a big rich town and that he came from the
part. I still want to hear that, but only on the Ghost one, like the Power Book II.
November.
Yeah. And also, at this point, we should also announce that, Raising Kanan has already been renewed for season 2. So, that happened before episode 1 even aired. So, yeah, great news, and congratulations to the Power team. And, the BMF show is also, that got revealed as well. And I can't wait for that. So, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. So let's get into the shout outs that we have. So I'll go to you first, Dana.
Well, shout out really quickly to Starz. They sent like a box of goodies. It's like old school CD. Like, remember fanny packs? And like a box of like 90s candies.
Wow.
Pop rocks. I thought that was extinct. Wow. I didn't even know that. And then like some like old school like hip hop books and stuff. So shout out to them. Also, shout
Oh,
out to our.
so you need my address, right?
I need your address, and I can look. Remember Polaroid cameras?
Oh yeah.
I don't even know how to develop this. Adorable, but like Polaroid stuff. So yeah, so thank you to Starz, and also thank you to everyone who is listening and now visually watching us.
Mhm.
So thank you for checking us out, and also really quickly, on the YouTube we'll have it out when we put up this video. We'll have all of the links that show the interviews between Sasha Penn, the entire Kane family, the Canaan family, and also with the actor who plays Canaan. So yeah, you can look forward to that and to more episodes that we will break down.
Awesome. And yeah, like props to you for doing all those interviews as well.
Mhm.
You know, like
Absolutely.
so yeah. Rich, any shout outs?
Yeah, I'm also going to say, yeah, props to Dana because she had some excellent interviews. You should definitely check them out. I want to take a minute to thank everybody that has supported the Powercast through all this time. As Dana mentioned, it took us a while to finally get on video, but we started doing this, and I think it's been a great experience so far. So we will continue to be on video for the foreseeable future. But for those that have been supporting the show since day one, if you are still around, we appreciate your support, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts on this episode as well as the other shows as we continue to cover them, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to be on video. And if anyone comments on my ugly mug, I'm deleting you. I'm banning you from the channel forever. Don't even try it. No, I'm joking. But my shout out is I just want to give a shout out to all of the listeners who have continued to support the Powercast, over the last, I don't know how many years it's been since we started, because we didn't start at Power Season 1, but yeah, we've been doing this a good few years now, and the response has been great. So I want to give a huge shout out to all of the listeners who have continued to listen and support the show. And I hope you do enjoy, the new format of the show and everything, and the visuals. So yeah, thank you all, and a big thank you to Starz for allowing us to, review the episode early and everything, and giving us access, and for all the interviews and things like that. So big shouts to the Starz team. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. That's episode 1 of Raising Kanan, and our recap on the Powercast. We will be back next week to recap episode 2. So make sure you subscribe. You can also subscribe to the playlist, and we're also on iTunes and Spotify, and and you can go directly to the website at thecoalition.com, coalition with a K. And we have a lot of different content on there. We cover video games, we cover other TV shows, such as Loki. We had a whole series reviewing that show. So
Yeah.
Definitely stay tuned to what we got in store for you next. And we will see you all next week. Take care of yourselves, people.